Origin completed a critical hot fire test for its New Glenn rocket, moving closer to its first flight scheduled for November. That's right, next month, because it's actually October now, which is mind-blowing. The test validated the interaction between the second stage's subsystems, 2 engines, and ground control systems. The hot fire lasted for 15 seconds, marking the first time Blue Origin operated New Glenn as a fully integrated system. There's a lot of work that has gone into that to clarify that. The second stage stands 26.8 meters tall, designed for missions to low Earth orbit, medium Earth orbit, and geosynchronous orbits. The maiden flight is going to carry...
Okay, I got this. I got this.
Yeah.
Seamless coordination between ground systems and the rocket's autonomous operations.
Yeah.
As these whole real, the real pressure kicks in when you're dealing with deep space missions like Mars. That coordination between New Glenn and ground control isn't rock solid in real time, the whole mission is going to be at risk, isn't it? Especially as that rocket transitions through the multiple stages of orbit. You miss a beat up there, you got a lot of trouble going on.
Yeah.
You said hot fire test, right, Greg?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Hot fire test.
I think it's interesting. Like, so the hot fire test is in most of the processes for development of stuff in the A&D world. It's a pretty important test. And in this case, the hot fire test was to validate the interactions between all the subsystems on the second stage, on the 2 engines, and on the ground control systems, which brings us back to some of the stuff Andrew just talked about with the coordination between communications here. It was only a 15-second hot fire, but it was a super important 15 seconds. And it was also an opportunity for the launch operations team to practice the launch day procedures on the console, to verify timing for critical operations, which means a lot of stuff happened in this test that's actually really important to just the testing process overall and how that integrates into all the rest of the entirety of your PLM and your critical thread processes. Yep. So I just want to highlight, for me, these kind of things, I feel that testing is really the most important aspect, specifically because once something like this is launched, if you didn't test correctly, you can't fix it later.
Brian, we did it again. We agreed. You nailed it. But how do you solve it? Number one for me is product validation and simulation. We got to hit this hard in the critical thread. That means you're going to run rigorous simulations of every operational condition, whether that's your launch, whether it's your orbit, transitions, ground interactions, all of it's got to be simulated for me. It's got to be flawless from a human control to full autonomy process. So number one. Number two, let's bring AI in. You've got to bring AI into this whole thing, I think now. AI is going to be the game changer on this one. We'd use it to analyze all that operational data and to predict the failure points. It'll simulate multiple flight scenarios. It'll adjust for real-time anomalies. Why do I keep trying to say that word today? I don't know. And even recommend corrections before launch day. So it'll also optimize the decision making when the rocket's out there on its own as well. So that way, we're going to make sure that both the ground crew and the rocket are dialed in and ready for the real thing. No slip ups, just mission success.
When you talk about product validation, you're validating that against something, which are, of course, the test results. But all of those are coming from the requirements management that you put together in the first place. Like, what requirements does this thing have to meet? So I think it just really highlights the entirety of when we deal with something like, well, we like to highlight what we think the most important aspect is for any one of these. You can't really have a successful product launch unless you have really figured out all of the aspects of your product lifecycle.
100%. It's end to end.